Welcome to the program, which will start with a breakthrough in our investigation into the thousands paid in reimbursements to bus giant Link SA for doing nothing. Tonight, a former employee blows the whistle on how they submitted student concession forms to the department signed on behalf of parents without their knowledge and without any concessions being passed on. The school's horrified about the practice, not to mention the breach of privacy, while others are demanding an independent inquiry questioning how taxpayer money can be spent this way. Lucy Polkinghorne with our exclusive investigation.
It's very clear now that they had to have been doing a certain amount of this paperwork themselves without the passengers' knowledge.
I was directed to sign these school pass forms on behalf of a parent or guardian.
It's the bombshell admission that blows the public transport rort we've been investigating wide open.
I believe that these school pass forms for the St Francis de Sales run were falsely filled out and executed and submitted for concessional reimbursement.
Were you asked to falsify passes so that reimbursements could be claimed?
Yes, I was directed and shown that that was the case that had to be done.
The smoking gun comes from a former bus company employee who admits he was required to sign phony documents which allowed government bus contractors to pocket thousands in reimbursements for student concessions that didn't exist.
If you had no passes, technically you're not entitled to claim for concessional reimbursement.
So according to Michael Jensch, they just made them up.
To my knowledge, Link SA would have to fill out those forms themselves. Obviously someone needs to sign them as the parent guardian, and this information needs to be submitted to government for proof that the students are travelling on the service.
Michael has felt concerned about the practice for some time. After seeing our stories last week, he decided to come forward at some personal risk to do the right thing and put the record straight.
I think it's for a company to be signing on the parent's behalf is just unethical. It just shouldn't be happening, and this enables them to collect money, which is just a disgrace, really.
Suspicions about this dodgy practice first emerged when Dean McGinty's bus company Lofty Coaches took over the private run for students of the St Francis de Sales College at Mount Barker in 2008.
We were advised that this was the way to do business when we took over, which was quite strange, and we also have supporting documents to show that this has been going on, and roles and students' names have been passed to other operators in this area beforehand.
While Link SA played no role in busing the students, unbeknownst to Dean, they were using his passenger names to complete and submit these documents, student concession application forms, to then claim a lucrative government reimbursement for themselves.
I would say to the public transport division's satisfactory that the form was completed in its entirety and was valid for concessional reimbursement.
But for them to be valid, the forms had to be signed by the children's parents, yet neither they nor the school had ever seen them or knew anything about them.
So you just had a whole stash of these in your office?
Yes, these forms are readily available in the office.
So what were you required to do to fill these out?
For the St Francis de Sales runs in particular, we were required to fill out all the details that are on the form.
So you had to sign as a parent?
I was directed and shown that that was the case.
What's more, because the arrangement between the school and Dean's company was purely a private one, Dean couldn't issue any such forms.
We definitely don't use pass forms like that. We do not have a pass form requirement to travel on our vehicles, so this is definitely not a part of our system and completely foreign to us.
As we've revealed, a Freedom of Information application from Shadow Transport Minister Stephen Griffiths unearthed Link SA's invoices charging the taxpayer around $8,000 a month in reimbursements, each showing a concession pass number.
They were filling in tickets without the parents' knowledge. They were handing those tickets in which were fraudulent. They were issuing passes that were fraudulent and then handing this information to the government and being paid for when the services weren't being done.
All the invoices were approved and paid. The counterfeit pass numbers and pass documents clearly passed the test.
The truth is the payment of this benefit of these concessions is entirely appropriate to the head contractor.
That was Transport Minister Pat Conlon when we challenged him last week about these payments. So how could submitting phony documents be entirely appropriate?
The concessions go to the people we've contracted with for that region.
It now has become evident and is certainly clear that Pat Conlon's remarks were incorrect, and I would suggest that he just is a bit better informed on this issue before he starts to comment on it.
What's really been going on is clear. The payments have been disguised as reimbursements based on fake student concessions Link SA weren't entitled to. And it's not like the minister has not had time to get on top of this. The allegations were first raised with him in late 2009. Then, April 2010, his department was again alerted. In April 2011, Dean and the opposition, Stephen Griffiths, met with the department, which triggered this letter from the minister denying any problem.
Legal advice was also sought regarding these claims, which confirmed the findings of the PTSD that no fraudulent activity was evident.
The issue was next raised during budget estimates, directly with Jay Weatherill and Pat Conlon. And yet he was telling us last week the payments really had nothing to do with student concessions, but were an incentive to Link SA to ensure the service.
The school is getting the service. Why would it get the concession? The school is getting the service.
To my knowledge, there is no such thing as incentive payments for these types of route services.
And the school is outraged. Aside from getting no concessions, their students' names and personal details have been breached without any parent or school authorisation or knowledge.
I have this message, right, for the people who have raised this, because our people have looked at it, can't find sufficient evidence. If anyone believes there's been a fraud, they should go to the police. That's what should happen.
This is actually a very, very serious issue that the government is trying to stonewall.
Family First MP Robert Brokenshire is another who's been following this saga.
It defies logic and common sense, and the government need to explain transparently what they are doing, because at the moment they seem to be condoning this.
He's now reported the matter to the Auditor-General, and we understand the school are contemplating going to the police.
There are cracks starting to show in the system. We've had people commenting on this happening in many areas in regional South Australia. There needs to be more investigation done. This is clearly not a one-off.
Now, Link SA wouldn't respond to our questions, but told us today that they would cooperate with a departmental inquiry. Lucy Polkinghorn with that report.